This is James Altucher at TheStreet.com TV, and I'm here with Jim Cramer. Jim, I'm planning out my summer reading list.
Okay.
I want to figure out some books to read, and the first thing I'm going to ask you about actually is not a book, but what do you think of Portfolio magazine?
Not on my list. Maybe I should make it on my list. And the reason why it's not is I don't like glitz.
There was some fun stuff, though. There was a good profile of T. Boone Pickens, and we've talked about him before on these episodes. There was also a good segment on Citadel and Ken Griffin.
Having started magazines myself, you front load the magazine. It's your absolute best pieces. By magazine 3, you're out of ideas. This will be the case. This is a magazine that has got the same crew. I never want to denigrate fellow pioneers of journalism. I've seen it too often. This magazine will be tapped out by issue 4.
That's interesting. We'll look forward to it. So, The Black Swan by Nassim Taleb. Have you taken a look at that?
No, I have not. I've not. Something I should look at?
I don't know. I just started it. It's about basically the idea that no matter what your predictions are and what your predictive past has been, basically things are too unpredictable. There's no way to really predict the markets.
Look, I remember reading James Glick's Chaos Theory. I also feel like that, obviously, I've made a lot of money betting against the theory. So I've got to be careful. I always like to see it challenged, like any other thesis, but it is wrong for me.
Well, what books are on your list this summer?
Well, I've been looking at... I have to read, just so you know, a lot of personal finance books. So let me do something a little bit different. Let me recommend a personal finance book. And it's not related to TheStreet.com, but for people who are trying, and it's probably not people who watch this video, but there's this rule number 1 book by this guy Phil Town, who used to be this Marine commander, and he's a suave guy. He's on this Millionaires show on CNBC. But for those who have 45 minutes to run their money each month, it's not reckless. Read that book. I think that's very good.
What's the rule? What's the rule?
Well, no, it's about a discipline. It's a book about discipline. It's like Marine Corps discipline applied to money, which I really like. That's a new perspective.
Yeah.
And then there's a Starbucks book that they use me as the strength to. It's like if you go to WSJ.com, you'll see they own this right-hand column. It's got this Starbucks book, and I gave my name to that one too because it was an anatomy of how a stock goes up a point or two. It was really good.
Is that Grande Expectations?
Yes.
Yeah, that was an excellent book. Actually,
you read it?
Yeah.
This book is a must-read.
It's a month by month.
Yeah, and for those who are trying to figure out where Whole Foods is going or where F5 is going or where Akamai is going, this was a great book. It kind of took me by surprise. A lot come over the transom. I got intrigued because of the month-by-month aspect of the Starbucks run, and a lot of people trying to figure out where Starbucks is right at 31. I think if you read the book, you won't feel that it's right.
Well, it's interesting because that book goes into a lot of what you've spoken about in your books, which is this regional to national expansion story.
It's the textbook.
And the big tension is Starbucks tapped out on that?
Right. I keep coming back to, there was a great book by Danny Meyer, who's a restaurateur that I would also recommend. I'm sorry that I'm blanking on these names, but with Amazon, you just go into Meyer.
Yeah.
What it is that you can't have a hospitality chain grow too quickly because your employees will not be trained well enough. He likes Chipotle because he says that's measured growth. He questions Starbucks because it needs to hire 90,000 people in the next year, and maybe America can't support it. But I like books that take a tact that don't seem like stock books, but are stock books.
Well, of your 4 books, if you had to only recommend one, which would you recommend?
If you
it's a tough choice because they're different.
If you want to be in the money business, it's Confessions of a Street Addict. But if you want to, if you want to run your firm, it's Confessions of a Street Addict. If you want to run your portfolio, it's Real Money.
And what about Mad Money, the last one?
Well, Mad Money was written as a cautionary view. There's been a lot of critics of the show saying, "Oh, you just go out and buy it, you'll do badly." And the whole point of the book is, here's the homework for what you do. The book is the show's a jumping off point. I wrote it to some degree because I feel like people were abusing the show. So, for people who are getting all their stock information from Mad Money, the TV show, they should read Mad Money, the book.
Well, it's interesting. With Mad Money, the book, I feel you have a lot more techniques that lend themselves to just solid screens people can look up, do their research?
This would have been one where if I'd known Stock Picker, I would have said, look, here's where I get my ideas. I mean, my ideas are so random from the show. This is the first non-randomized method of coming up with ideas, because what I'm really doing is having a research staff of 66,000 people.
Yeah, it's excellent. Like every day, the other day you pointed out a portfolio of the Boeing supplier, some random.
Yeah, it had a couple I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times what I look for when I see a portfolio like that is, okay, so I know they have the traditionals. It's that one that I didn't know that I can then highlight. That's what matters for me.
Now, if you had to pick any book, not even book just out, but like a book from the past, what's your favorite investing book out there?
It's still going to be Reminiscences of a Stock Operator in there, because it's really the notion of the psychology of the day-to-day market and what you need to do to win. And it's from a guy who won and lost, and I think it really is fabulous.
So that book's based on Jesse Livermore, who was considered one of the greatest depression-type investors.
I love that book.
Yeah, that was a great story.
We read it. I actually taught it at Goldman in the 80s.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's Jim Cramer's reading list. This is James Altucher at TheStreet.com TV. Thanks.